What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another Reedsy Live. Thank you for making it on this fine Wednesday. I'm Martin from the team at Reedsy, and welcome to the latest Reedsy Live, our ongoing series of webinars where we bring on authors and professionals from the world of publishing to share their knowledge with you, find folks to teach you how to write, edit, publish, and market better books. After a few Reedsy Live, where we've been looking at writing, craft, I'm pleased to be able to bring on an author and marketer, Bryan Cohen, who's one of the fine professionals we have here at Reedsy. He's a bit of an expert when it comes to writing book descriptions, or blurbs, as some people call them, with an eye to helping convert readers who come onto your page, whatever retail you might be using, when they pick up the back of your book. Yeah, I'll let him explain a bit more when he comes on. But while we're waiting for that, as some of you have already started, let us know where you're coming from today. I'll see if I can read out a few of these. I see Eliza from Youngstown, Ohio. Welcome. Erin from Texas. I'm pretty sure I've seen you at a few of these before. Patricia from St. Louis. Fantastic. Welcome. Ivy from London, England. That's where I am right now. So glad to see some home audience here at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. Yeah, as long-time viewers may notice, we're broadcasting now on YouTube. Finally, the technology has been made available to us that allows us to put on the kind of show we want to, while also broadcasting away from the Facebook clutches. Shannon from Nebraska, welcome. Michelle from Colorado Springs, fantastic. Thank you, Reverend Michelle. Pat Patterson from New York, not the veteran wrestling presenter. Mark Morstein, Tyson's Corner, Virginia, welcome, welcome. TKB Writes from Panama. Wow, fantastic. We're getting from everywhere. We got Corne from South Africa, Jessica from Oregon, Ebony from Manitoba. So we've got a handful of countries being represented. As I mentioned, this is Reedsy Live, our series of webinars where we bring on guests to teach you a little bit more about writing, editing, publishing, and marketing better books. I'll try to slow down. I've been known to blather on a bit too quickly, and with an accent, it can be tough sometimes. Reverend Mary Yankee, I think we have multiple reverends here today. Fantastic. Jan from Manchester, Matthew from Louisville, Kentucky, someone from Jamaica, Nastasia. Okay, fantastic. Well, it's hitting 9 o'clock my time, which is 4 o'clock Eastern and 1 p.m. On the final Pacific. So without further ado, I think I'm going to bring on Bryan. Just give me a second while he spools up. Oh, exciting. Bryan, can you hear me? Might be an issue here. Okay, I'm going to take him off again and try once more. And, oh, okay, he's gone for now. So you're stuck with me for just 1 second, but I promised Bryan was right there a moment ago. A little bit earlier today, I sent out a call for a few of you to send in book descriptions that you may have already, with an eye to having Bryan critique and rewrite them towards the end of this presentation. Over the next 20 minutes or so, once he gets back online, he'll be taking you through his process for writing book descriptions, and then, you know, to do a bit of show don't tell, as the old maxim goes, he'll be taking one of your existing book descriptions and reworking them according to his method. Terry from Inverness, Scotland, fantastic. Welcome, Terry. Patrick Herbert, that's a familiar name. I think he may work here with us here at Reedsy. Carrie Wood, fantastic. Laura McCarthy from The Wirral here in England. If you just give us a couple of minutes, imagine there's a test pattern working here, but we'll get Bryan back on with us in just a minute. But in the meantime, let us know where you're coming from. It's always good to see the absolute depth of cool people joining us here for these Reedsy Lives. Slate from Chicago. Chris from Owatonna, Minnesota. Beth from Cincinnati, Ohio. Beth, I believe, is another returning guest here. It would just be a few minutes, as I mentioned. We're having our guest Bryan Cohen on tonight, who's a author and book marketer here with Reedsy. I think he may be experiencing some technical difficulties, but But as soon as he's back on here, we'll bring him on to say hello to us. Tony from Seal Beach, California. Sandra from Willow Thompson, Pennsylvania. Okay, we have the someone from Gold Coast, Australia. So it's pretty early in the morning for you. So I'm glad you were able to join us today. While we're on here, might as well get to know each other a little bit, and maybe even smash the subscribe button here on Reedsy's YouTube channel. If you're wondering why I'm blathering on, we're just having a bit of technical difficulties with our guest. But while that sorts itself out, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shaylin, who's on our team, she puts out 2 new videos every week, and they're really useful stuff. And also, if you subscribe, you won't miss any one of these. I see Brian's on, so take 2. Let's give this one a go. And sorry, give me a second. Clicking and nothing's happening. Okay, just give me one more try. Okay, one moment. Okay, I'm going to reboot my own. It's a bit of a dangerous one. Thanks for your patience, everyone. We're just going to try and get this going as soon as we can. I may do something quite radical and reset my own screen. If this thing disappears, head back to the Reedsy page, YouTube page in just a minute and log back on. Fingers crossed. Okay, and you can still see me, which is fantastic. I'm going to try and move Brian onto here now. And
hooray!
Finally. You know what? It's only 4 minutes, although in the pit of my stomach, it felt like an absolute eternity. Where am I finding you today, Brian?
I live here in Chicago, Illinois, where apparently the internet just kicks out when you're on a live call sometimes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it probably only happens at the top of the hour.
Yes.
I presume we're going to be fine for the rest of it. Okay, well, I've sort of blathered on for long enough, so I'm going to leave you to it. I've got your slide deck that I can share on screen as soon as you're ready, but I'll catch you a little bit later. We're going to have a bit of a Q&A, so stick around, folks. And as promised, Brian will be critiquing one of your book descriptions a bit later. Have fun, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everybody. Very excited to do this webinar today. Hi to John. Hi to everybody. I'm very excited to be doing this today. I love book descriptions and I'm ready to go. So, Martin, you can throw that up on the screen if all the tech works. And it looks like we are on. You can take me out of there. You don't need my face. And we'll just get on into it. I will definitely try to critique everybody's descriptions who comes on by. So, and hey, LV. Isaac with a comment about deep dish pizza. Well, we'll have to see about that. Welcome to How to Write Better Book Descriptions to Sell More Books. We're just going to get right into it. What is a book description? If you're new to this, if you have heard of other terms like blurb, but you don't really know what it is, let me just tell you. When it comes down to it, the book description is the text that shows up on your online sales pages. So on Amazon, on Apple, on Kobo, etc. It also shows up on the back cover of your paperback book or hardcover book or audio book. But, unless you're selling at a conference, nobody's even looking at the back of that book. They're all looking at what the words are on your sales page. It's around 150 to 300 words. Usually it's a little longer for a nonfiction book. I'm very interested kind of what our split is. If you write fiction, say fiction in the chat. If you write nonfiction, say nonfiction. If you write both, say both. It's always interesting to see kind of what people write and what they don't. Now, A book description, when it comes down to it, is your opportunity to get readers excited about your book. And for a lot of you, it looks like a fiction or both. So that's a good way to know. Thank you, everybody. The book description is the best way to turn browsers of Amazon, people who make it to your page, into buyers. You want to turn the people who randomly find your page into people who buy your book. Now, a lot of you might wonder, how do I condense my book? Because it's 80,000 words. How am I supposed to get 150 words from that? That seems impossible. And judging by how many folks you write fiction, I think you might understand where I'm coming from. So here is the book description formula. I will go into a couple more points for nonfiction later, but it does seem like most of you are fiction writers. Here's the book description formula. It starts with a hook. It's the line that you'd put on your movie poster. It is the line that gets people in your genre to know that your book is for them. It's the line that gets people who write in your genre to know the book is for them. I'm going to go into some very specific things here about what a good hook entails, but it always starts with a hook. If you have quotes from people, if you have even something from the New York Times, I would still put the hook first. Then we go into the synopsis. This, for fiction, is kind of your character's emotional journey. It is where your character is at the start, where your character is once things happen to him or her, and it's always focused on the emotions of your character. Honestly, and I see Warren here does thrillers. I see a lot of folks doing mysteries and other fiction genres. A lot of you get really excited about your plot, so you want to share as much of it as possible in your book description. But readers like to connect with characters more than they like to connect with plots. Now, from a synopsis of a nonfiction, it's about how you convey the information, anecdotes, case studies, tips and tricks. That's what the synopsis entails. Selling paragraph. This is my favorite thing. I do love the selling paragraph. This is where you tell your readers what your book is, so to remind them what your book is and why they should go and buy it. What is it about your book that is so awesome? This is when you're kind of putting on your publisher hat. And I did see there's a couple of folks who are traditionally published or representing someone in the audience today. This is where you put on your publisher hat and you say that your book is great. And I know that's hard for you. How many people out there, and I love it, all y'all sharing your genres, thank you. How many of you out there would feel a little uncomfortable saying that your book is good on a sales page? Because usually there's a lot of folks out there who are pretty humble, who don't like to share that kind of thing, but you have to come from the reader perspective here, which is the reader thinks that a publisher has written that. They think that a publisher has written it. So you have to remember that. Then we end with a call to action. Robin's story says, so uncomfortable. Nancy says, beyond uncomfortable. John, I agree that it sounds lame, but you aren't tooting your own horn. You are playing the role of the publisher. You are playing the role of the publisher, and so you need to talk your own book up. This is not a time to be humble. And then you end with a call to action, which is essentially asking readers to buy your book. You do it in kind of a professional way. Buy this book to experience something amazing today. Isaac, I love that call to action. My book is amazing. Just bow down and buy it. I love that. So this is the formula. Now I'm going to go to every last part of it. But before then, the challenge that we have, our book is full of a lot of stuff. Plots, characters, settings, tips. And we have this very limited window here, right? 150 to 300 words. We have this limited window to get people who stumble on our page to be excited enough to click the buy button. And so we have to use this space very wisely. But how on earth do you condense this 80,000 word book? How do you do it? Well, condense isn't quite the right word. It's honestly about making a choice. Let's start right off the bat with your hook. So how do we choose what goes in our blurb and what doesn't? I like you, Blue Spark Plug. Bryan. Now, novels, they tend to have one main conflict. One main conflict. The biggest one, the one that deals with usually death, love, or enlightenment. Someone might die, someone might fall in love, or someone might have enlightenment, have a big aha moment. While nonfiction books usually have one main takeaway. Now, if you list out all of your book's conflicts or takeaways, you list them all out, you need to choose the one that's just the biggest, that's the most exciting, that's going to get, if you write fantasy, that's going to get your fantasy readers excited. If you write self-help, that's going to get your self-help readers excited. So you take that conflict or that takeaway, and that's what you base your description on. It's not about trying to condense every last plot point. It's about figuring out what is the big thing that my readers would be excited about here. And it's about basing your description on that. So you don't have to worry about including plots or sub-characters and all of that. All you need to focus on is what is the number one conflict or the number one takeaway in my book. So, example, let's say we were writing a book description for Harry Potter, first one, and we wanted to come up with a hook. There's a lot of characters, Hermione, Ron, all of the professors, all of the bad guys, Snape, but you could settle on what is the number one conflict, which is usually in the format of the protagonist wants something, but something is standing in their way. Harry just learned magic, but the most powerful wizard of all time is out to kill him. Pretty big conflict. Then we take that conflict and we just try to restate it a bunch of different ways. This is not the kind of thing where you come up with one idea and then that one idea is perfect. You need to come up with a lot of different options, but you create your headline based on your conflict, which for this is when evil awakens, one boy's magic must save the world. So I kind of just twisted the conflict a little bit to make it a little bit bigger. We need to save the world here. We need to do something big and bold and incredible. And so that is something you need to keep in mind with your conflict. And there are going to be more examples later, don't worry, and I'll share the slides. Happy to do so. Let's go to a nonfiction example. Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Lots of tips, lots of examples, but the main takeaway is you get to discover how to declutter your house using one simple rule, which is, hey, does it bring me joy or does it not bring me joy? And then you create your hook based off that. Tired of dealing with clutter every day of your life? Discover a simple system that'll cut your tidying time in half. So for nonfiction, it's always kind of that, what problem are you solving? Followed by sharing. So Ivy said, what's a takeaway? A takeaway is the number one thing someone will learn from the book. So in this case, the number one takeaway is the simple system that is going to save time. In short, you need to start with good material, aka your number one conflict, your number one takeaway. And then you're going to end up with much better copywriting for your description. Beth says, oh, her system does not save time. That's a great question. That's a great comment there, Beth. Start with good material and you're going to end up with much better copywriting for descriptions, ads, and more. So who am I again? Well, I just wanted to give you guys a little note here. I'm Bryan Cohen. I know Martin introduced me. I've written actually thousands of book descriptions over time. I've learned a lot about the industry through my weekly podcast, the Sell More Books show. I'm interested how many people here have listened to the Sell More Books show. There I am with my co-host, Jim Kukral. There I am on stage. I recently presented at 20 Books Vegas, the big self-publishing conference. And yep, as Lisa points out, there's my little cutie, my daughter, who is almost 3. And I have been following every single week the self-publishing industry for the last 5 years. I have been talking about the news. I have been learning about marketing. I have been attempting to make sure I give you the most relevant, interesting information. And so I hope that you find, Karen saw my talk in Vegas. Hey, Karen, thank you. And thank you, Linda, and everybody else. So for those of you who don't know me, just know that I do know what I'm talking about, and I promise you that I will give you very awesome information here. And thank you, River, and everybody else who is saying kind things about me. It's super appreciated. Now, my own success, I have also sold some of my own books. To kind of to point to Lisa's point, do you find self-publishing more beneficial? These are my sales from my own self-published books over the last 8+ years. So far, so good. I do know I have had a lot of success with my own self-published books. So hopefully that proves that I'm worth my salt here. So, oh, and Tiara, thank you very much. So here's what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn why a book description is really your ticket. And thank you guys. And thank you, Martin, for posting the link there. You'll learn why a book description is really the ticket for better sales and more readers. You'll learn how to effectively write the 4 parts of your description. And you're going to learn how to write that short copy, those hooks, those Amazon ads, and those things that get you interested in all of your future books. Robin points out lots of variety there. Oh yeah, I'm writing all sorts of random stuff there. So what is copy? What is copywriting? So these are the words on the outside of your book. Chances are a lot of you are just so good. You're significantly better than me at the words inside your book. But the words outside of your book are the ones that help to sell the ones on the inside. This is the marketing. The words readers use to judge your work. Look, you judge a book by your cover, you judge a book by your blurb, by your book description. And readers are going to judge your work before they decide if they're going to buy. And so we want to make sure that judgment is very positive. This is also the part of book marketing we have the most control over. Even if you do publish with a small press, I've had a lot of authors with small presses work with me and my company because they do actually have control over writing the book description, and the company is okay with them writing their own book description. Sometimes the author will do a better job with the description than the company itself. Now, where do people look on an Amazon sales page? It's a good question. And Michael Alvear, on a study in Romance University, did a little heat map test here, looking to see what people are actually looking at on an Amazon sales page. Helpful information to have. Surprisingly, they don't look at the cover that much once they're on the page. They've likely seen it in an ad or they've seen it in a search, so they don't actually need to look at it much over here. But look at what they're really looking at. They're looking at the title. They're looking at the reviews. And if they're still on the page, then what do they do next? They look at that book description. And a lot of time, I know, River, isn't this super cool? I love this. I love this image. The interesting thing is, if they make it through your book description and they like your book, they're probably going to buy it. But if they don't like your book description, they're not going to buy it. So I like to refer to copy as your closer. It's your closer because the cover is going to draw readers to your page from an ad or from social media. The title and the reviews, they kind of keep them there. Like, hey, the title can't be super confusing. You can't have one review. I like to say, are you going to buy the socks with 50 reviews or the socks with one review? I'm going to buy the socks with 50 reviews. So you want to have more reviews, obviously. You want to have more reviews. And if they're still on the page after they've looked at the title and the reviews, that book description can really seal the deal. There was this great study done by Mark Dawson years ago. He surveyed 10,000 readers and asked them, how'd you find me? He assumed everyone was going to say his cover, but 4 times as many people, nearly 5 times, said the book description. And it's not even necessarily that the book description was the thing that got them, but it was the last thing. It was the last point of contact before they purchased. So if they like your description, they'll buy the book. So we better get it right. So the description starts with a hook. This is the line that's going to either compel your target readers, the people who like reading your genre, to either keep reading or to buy right there. Some people stop reading after the first line and decide whether or not to buy. It's that first impression, right? It's the first impression of your book description starts with your hook. That's why you really need to grab them with that line. It's the first impression with your words. It needs to really get them. It needs to hook them. If they like that, even just that first line, they might buy your book. They might join your list. They could become a fan forever. So I want to share with you the simple 4-step process for writing these stellar hooks. Step 1, we already went over, is to pick that conflict or takeaway. So write them all out. If you're not sure which one is the number one, death, love, or enlightenment, high stakes conflict, write them all out. Then you pick the number one option that you think readers of your genre would most identify with. So if it's fantasy, it might have to do with your fantastical words. If it your a fantastical world, if it's your thriller, it might have to do with the murder that's happening. Pick the one that is going to resonate with your readers. Here are a couple of options. The Fault in Our Stars, the conflict. Two teens are in love, but they're dying of cancer. That's terrible. That book and movie make me cry. Nonfiction, discover a 5-step process for writing New Year's resolutions that stick. That's for the book Your Best Year Ever. So, conflict, what is the big thing, usually related to death, love, or enlightenment for fiction? For nonfiction, what is the number one thing readers are going to get out of this book? And that's it right there. Now we're going to use that conflict. We're going to adapt that conflict to write your hook. You're going to ignore the book. You're going to ignore trying to squeeze a million plots in here, and you're just going to focus on that conflict or takeaway. The Fault in Our Stars. We're just going to rewrite it. Young love, a terminal diagnosis. Time is running out. So this is just a restatement of two kids are in love and they're dying of cancer. Your Best Year Ever. Usually, it's a question followed by your book framed as the solution. Are your New Year's resolutions always out of reach? Discover I love discover. I like unlock, explore. Discover a 5-step process for setting and achieving your loftiest goals. So it's the problem followed by solution. Step 3, you're going to rewrite this hook. I like to do it 15 to 20 different ways. And I see, Gail, yours right there. Your hook is very plotty. I would love to see it more about the characters. Love to see it more about the characters there. What is the death, love, or enlightenment? It's probably them potentially getting in trouble with those drug dealers. So usually we would write 15 to 20 versions of our hooks. For the sake of time, we're just going to do one additional version. So Fault in Our Stars. Dying of cancer is tragic, but it's worse when you're in love. Your Best Year Ever. Will this be the year you achieve your resolutions? Discover a 5-step process to make New Year's a time for goal-setting celebration. So, I saw some fear there from River. Here's the thing about blurbs that everybody forgets. This is creative work, but we tend to use our editor brains on this. I recommend treating this like a writing sprint where you're just trying to get as many ideas out of your head at once. And I found that to be pretty helpful. Make these versions as wildly different from your first one as possible. Lisa says, does the love, death, enlightenment have to be connected to the main protagonist? Usually, yes. Usually, I would recommend yes. Then you pick the emotional one. You pick the one that is most likely to get you excited to read this book, that makes you excited as the author even. So let's say we have our two options for our fiction here. We compare them and then we say, hey, we take a look. Maybe we even share it with our readers. Always a good idea. Share it with our readers and see which ones they vote for. In this case, I was a fan of option 2. I think it fits the tone of the book a little more. Ends with a stronger word because it ends with the word love. Powerful words: love, death, pain, soul. Run those in there. Make them the last word. To share it with your readers, it's very helpful if you do have an email list. You do have a Facebook group. Those are great places to share it with your readers once you start to collect them. Let's look at the nonfiction ones. I ended up picking option 1 the first time I wrote this, but I actually like, will this be the year you achieve your resolutions? I don't know which one I would pick now, but I think you can pick whichever one you want, but I would recommend that you share it with readers whenever possible. But when you pick between not just 2, but 15 to 20, and you can kind of mix and match them, it gives you a much better chance of finding one that's going to connect with your readers. I almost do all of my testing with readers themselves when I'm doing one of my own books. But internally, we actually create 5 to 10 different options, and then we pick which one ends up being the best, that we're the most excited about, and we use that as the hook. And any questions that I don't end up answering during the webinar, please feel free to save them, post them in a little doc on your own, and I'll answer them at the end. Here are some examples. Someone asked for thrillers. Thriller, a death row escapee, nuclear launch codes in the wrong hands. A retired detective is the world's only hope. Sci-fi, humanity has escaped Earth. Their second home is in the line of fire. One renegade pilot will save or doom us all. It doesn't always have to be 3 sentences, but I was in a mood when I picked these. Fantasy, fairies and humans have always stayed separate until now. A reckless sprite's first day on the job could be her last. And so we've got the death in almost all of these cases. Thriller, sci-fi, and fantasy are similar in that the world is usually in danger. Romance and memoir and young adult tend to be a little bit different. Romance is usually about the will they or won't they. He just wants to forget. She wouldn't take help if it landed on her. Together, they'll find out exactly what they were missing. Young adult. Popularity just turned its back on him. She's never fit in. School never saw them coming. So I recommend you use the hook everywhere. Erica. So memoir is an interesting one. It tends to be a combination of fiction and nonfiction. We tend to refer to it as a reverse mullet with business in the back and party in the front. So we have the fiction party up top and the business in the back. Now remember, you can use these hooks in your description on Amazon as advertising copy and as a Facebook ad copy as well. Now with the hook, you've got their attention. Now there were a couple people who asked, what if it's cross-genre? Usually if it's fantasy, sci-fi, or something else mixed with another genre, you usually go with the weird one. You emphasize, if it's fantasy romance, you emphasize the fantasy. If it's sci-fi thriller, you emphasize the sci-fi. So the headline gets the hook in. Now it's time to reel them in with your emotionally charged synopsis. I'm going to go deep on fiction with a couple little nonfiction pieces of info here. Good questions here. I promise I'm going to answer all of them at the end. So your typical fiction synopsis. Here's what you usually see in descriptions that are not strong. These synopses don't know why their characters matter. They don't flow because it's really, really choppy. It doesn't grow. It doesn't, you don't feel the energy building as we continue on. And it doesn't show that the book is awesome. It doesn't leave the reader wanting more. It doesn't have some big cliffhanger that is getting readers excited. So we obviously want it to show that a character's matter. We want it to flow. We want it to boost in energy as it goes on. And we want it to show that this book is so awesome that you have to pick it up right away. Now, the best-selling books of all time have these big characters. Heck, even the Bible, right? You got these big characters of Adam and Eve and Noah. The best-selling books of all time have big characters. We relate to them. We connect with them. My mom used to work at a day camp, and kids would come up to her asking for not Hunger Games hair, not capital hair, but they were asking for Katniss hair. Readers connect with characters no matter what age they're at. So it's not just, enough to have someone's name and all this stuff happen to them. No, we need to see and understand how these characters feel. So how do you make readers know that characters matter in your book? You need to kind of answer, what defines your protagonist? What is something about that character that would make him or her relate to a reader? Jessica, you don't know what Katniss hair is? Oh, you got to go watch the Hunger Games movies, because there were a lot of kids who had it. It's mostly just braided. But what defines your protagonist? What is it that sets them apart? What is it that makes them interesting? What is your main character going through? Where are they at? Where are they at the beginning of the story? Where are they at emotionally at the beginning of the story? This isn't from an actual book description, but I like this Harry Potter example. Harry Potter just found out his whole world is a lie. I'm not saying here that Harry Potter is upset, but I'm showing it because he just found out his whole world is a lie. He just found out something big. This doesn't just sound like something happening to him. It sounds like something emotional happening to him. And we're going to have more examples later. You want to vary up your sentence length. They can't all be the exact same length. They can't, or it's going to sound like spoken word poetry or something. You need to vary your sentence length and type. Some short sentences, some long sentences, and it certainly can't be one long run-on. Man, have I seen a lot of descriptions that are just one long run-on sentence after another. Can't do that. If I'm a reader and I see that your description is full of run-on sentences, I'm going to assume you're right like Faulkner, minus maybe the skill, and that your sentences are just super, super long. So here's an example of flow. Instead of this mouthful, as a spy for the top British intelligence agency, comma, MI6, comma, David Trotter has the highest security clearance, comma, but he can't tell his family anything, comma, which has never been a problem, ellipsis, until now. I find it helpful to read those punctuation marks out loud because it makes you realize just how many there are. I wouldn't recommend more than one comma per sentence in a book description. Instead of that, do this. David Trotter is at the top level of British intelligence. He may love his family, but he can't tell them anything about his top security clearance and his license to kill. It hasn't been a problem until now. Just feel how much more dramatic it is with those stops. Yeah, I realize that now. With these stops, you want to make sure that, one, as C. Penn points out, you don't have echoes, like I should have gotten out of this description right off the bat. But it needs to not just be like stream of consciousness. It needs to be well written. And thank you guys for the kind words. Be willing to cut details out, to remove plot points in an effort to get more flow into your description. You want to make sure that it grows. Look, you need to keep the momentum going. You need to make sure that the energy is going from the beginning to the end of your description. Because the synopsis is like a shark. If it stops moving, it is going to stop getting oxygen. So I love using phrases like, when the whole world changed, comma, after meeting his maker, comma, dancing his way to the top of the charts, comma, as the tension between them builds, comma. These phrases are kind of like a plane needing to speed up before it takes off. You're adding energy to the sentence so that it has enough speed to fly into the air. So these kind of transitional phrases can make a huge difference. And lastly, it needs to show. You need to raise those stakes. Death, love, or enlightenment also plays a major role in the cliffhanger. I read too many descriptions that end with a whimper. It almost feels like the writer or the publisher just said, okay, I guess I'm done. Well, that's exactly what the reader's going to say. Okay, I guess I'm done, and not by the book. So you need to end with something really big. Example, if they fail, the ones he loves may not survive the night. Death. Right there. So the fiction synopsis: know the character's emotions. Let it flow with short and long sentences. Read it out loud. Read all the punctuation marks out loud. You grow momentum with transitions. The runway before the takeoff. And then you just show how crazy this book might get. Cliffhangers are absolutely allowed here. Now, with nonfiction synopses, I'm just going to list a couple of points. Very important that you establish that you're an expert. And if you aren't an expert, you should at least say that you're an author, because the first few letters of authority are author. So you want to have that you are an authority on this subject. Here's an example of expertise. Fitness and military intelligence expert Gary Collins has helped thousands of people roam free with firsthand advice shared on his popular website. Also, you don't want to list everything. You want to focus on the transformational benefits. So inside, you'll learn how to balance your checkbook so you can finally save up for your dream vacation. It's not just about, hey, you learn how to get out of debt. It's about, what is getting out of debt going to provide for me? And maybe it's going to provide that you finally get to do the things you've been dreaming of. You need those. You need those transformational benefits in your nonfiction description. What comes after the synopsis? Two last things. And this is kind of like your closing argument that is going to make or break the sale. You need to remind your reader what the book is and the action they should take to start reading it. What do they need to do? And so we accomplish this with the selling paragraph and the call to action. So if a reader has gotten to this point in the description and they haven't bought, there's still some sort of resistance on their part. They don't yet feel compelled to buy it. So we need to answer these questions for the reader. What if this book isn't for me? And it sounds good, but how do I know for sure? We want to make sure the reader has these questions answered for them. And we do this by using two simple sentences. Two last sentences before we get to the call to action. Sentence 1. We tell it like it is. We mention the genre and the series. Example: Ted Saves the World is the first book in a young adult superhero series. It seems kind of trite, but that's what we got to do. We got to remind people, what is this book again? People have kind of a limited attention span these days. Now, if the reader likes the genre, they're more excited. You've scored a point. Oh, I love superhero books. So bringing the genre back in is important. Sentence number 2, why should I buy? You want to use praiseworthy, pertinent adjectives to describe your book. Remember, it's not time to be modest. You need to think of yourself like a publisher, not a bashful author writing his or her own bio. I use the if you like this, you'll love this format. This has actually been proven to increase sales in a study on bookbub.com. Here's an example. If you like wall-to-wall action, witty dialogue, and touching romance, if you like this, then you'll love the first installment in Bryan Cohen's Super Powered series. It's weird to write your own name there, like it's third person, but it's absolutely necessary. So finding those adjectives, this is a great way to use your customer reviews. If you don't feel comfortable speaking highly of yourself, you can look at your customer reviews. You can look at your customer reviews to speak highly for you. Jack, if it's a standalone, you just say, this book is a young adult novel, a standalone young adult novel. So you don't have to say it's part of a series. Use your customer reviews. You can paraphrase them. You can copy paste them. You can quote them, whatever you want to do. But you can use those pieces of reviews to speak highly for you if you would rather not use your own words. Couple of examples. Dead of Winter is the first standalone book in a spine-tingling series of romantic suspense novels. Okay, so that's a series too. But if you like small-town mysteries, heart-wrenching romance, and gripping tension, then you'll love Melissa Pearl and Anna Cruz's White Knuckle Thrill Ride. The Law of Action is your practical handbook for mapping out your path to a purposeful life. If you like real-life examples of success, no-nonsense advice, and simple steps you can start today, then you'll love Rob Actis's life-changing guide. Can every book in a series should have its own description? You don't necessarily need a whole series description, though I've seen that being used in box sets. So now we make our final plea, selling paragraphs in place. We're going to pitch our readers. We're going to tell them what to do. The description ends with a call to action. What is the call to action? This is where you give your reader guidance. You hold their hand, literally hold, well, I guess it's figuratively holding their hand all the way to the shopping cart. You want to tell them what they have to do. For example, buy The Pugs of War to start the hilarious caper today. I like to use buy, but you can use other words like explore or discover. I like to do this at the end because you've got a reader, a potential reader, has 7 internet tabs open. They have the TV on, their tablet is on. They're pretty distracted. So you kind of need to just get through to them by telling them exactly what to do. Then we have By Set Free by Real Love to start your must-have roadmap of the heart today. I like today as well. It's very urgent. Like I said, you can use discover, unlock, explore, whatever you want to do. Now, the full book description. Here it is. Headline, the hook. Synopsis, character emotional journey, or how you convey the information. Selling paragraph, what it is and why people will like it. And then the call to action, buy the book because it's great. Here are a couple of examples, one for fiction, one nonfiction. Reality is under attack. Every battle could be their last, and they're down to their fine. I have a echo there too. Final life. In the battle to save his race, Scarhoof is the last guard standing. If the old shaman warrior fails to gather reinforcements, the defenseless minotaurs in his care will fall into the enemy's scaly clutches. But on the other side of the VR console, far more than Scarhoof's game world is at stake. We have a little cliffhanger there, going from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. Adriana and her team of programmers are in for some long nights on the job. Epoch and International's latest immersive game wasn't supposed to come out for months, but a rogue AI had other plans. It's trapped players into the simulation and held their memories hostage. If Adriana can't hack her way back in, Scarhoof and the other players could be lost forever. They could die. Death. Then we have our selling paragraph. Eloria's Beginning is the dynamic first book in a new lit RPG series. If you like unconventional fantasy heroes, epic battles, and immersive gaming worlds, then you'll love Tom Hansen's VR adventure. This is what it is. This is why you'd like it. Then we have our call to action. Buy the book to boot up for a high-octane gaming session today. We often tie that to the genre for fun. Nonfiction example. Are you tired of living your life on autopilot? Discover a 7-minute fix to take back control and enjoy every moment. Do you feel like you're too busy for self-reflection? Does your well-being take a back seat to your everyday responsibilities? Has that made you stressed out and on edge? Here's the expertise. Author Justin R. Adams was exactly where you are until he fine-tuned his methods for cultivating mindfulness. And now he's here to help. He's here to help you become healthier, wealthier, and wiser. This is who the expert is. This is why you should listen to him. Mindful Life Journal contains daily prompts and playful exercises. That's how the information is conveyed to enrich your emotions, your intentions, and your energy by combining ancient Eastern wisdom with modern Western science. Adams's methods can make you more self-aware and confident with just 7 minutes of effort per day. Here are the transformational benefits. You'll discover how to get a deeper understanding of the relationships between emotion and energy. You'll get energy. 13 fun challenges to help you pause and internalize the moment. How to start the day in a better mood, not just for a better mood, how to become more intentional about your life. 3 months of non-dated entry and daily prompts to help you reflect on your progress. A greater clarity of your beliefs, your values, and your sense of purpose, and much, much more. This life-affirming book in the journal is the journal you need to live a more mindful life. There's another echo there. I gotta go find these echoes in these examples. You like time-tested methods, structured approaches to self-reflection, and spending just a few minutes a day to make real progress, then you'll love Justin R. Adams's inspirational guide, by the Mindful Life Journal, to learn to live in the moment today. So let's put it all together. Compelling hook. It gets browsers to buy or keep on reading. Your powerful description, your synopsis, leaves readers wanting more. They solidify their decision with the selling paragraph. And the call to action tells them exactly what to do. And this is what you do. This is what you have to do to turn more browsers into buyers with all of your future marketing efforts. Now, blurbs are tough. I've worked with thousands of authors. Some of them have said that writing the description is harder than writing the book itself. I see a meme with Gollum that goes around, just kind of like in his voice, we hates the blurb, but we must writes it kind of thing. But that's not great, because if copy helps you close the sale, then hey, you've got to get it right. It's very essential. Now you can do it yourself. You can hand it off to the pros. I'm going to get into a Q&A in just a second. I just wanted to let you know I work, my company, Best Page Forward, does do book descriptions. It's the easiest way to go from a blurb that pushes browsers away into one that converts more strangers into paying customers. And it's the quickest way to direct more people to the buy now button. So you can get a book description today. You can get it in 1 month's time for $2.97, which includes 10 pieces of Amazon ad copy and unlimited revisions. And the Reedsy does let you split this up into 2 payments, which is very nice. So you can go to sellingforauthors.com/Reedsy19, and Martin is going to post the link directly to my Reedsy profile. If you submit in the next couple of days, we will be able to get you this description before Christmas Day. But time's running out for that because we turn it around in 1 month. So if you submit info in the next couple days, we'll get it to you before Christmas. So that's kind of the urgency there. And now it's time for a live demo and a question and answer session. I do have a nice testimonial from Mark Dawson here. I get Best Page Forward to write my descriptions because the process is so simple. Also because their blurbs have been on books, box sets, and ads that have earned me 6 figures, shot me into the USA Today bestseller list, and got me thousands of pre-orders. Enough said, and Mark Dawson is a 7-figure author. So I want to respond to a couple questions here about the service. Then I want to do a live demo here. Martin, I might scoot out of my screen, my shared screen, so that I can share a new screen in just a sec here. I'll remove that, but I'll share the next one in a sec. And then I will get into the live demo here. I do have a thumbs down, Martin. There's 32 thumbs up, 1 thumbs down. That's okay, though. You're still muted, I believe. I couldn't hear you. So, Martin, I can't hear you. I don't know if everybody else can. But
sorry, still getting to
there we go.
There we are. I'm just saying everyone can sort of put in their questions here. I can bring them up on screen for you to read. Are there any sort of specific questions? If people want to like send anything for you to see, like if that's the case, would you be willing to look at just a hook or something?
And I can hear you now, by the way. I think these comments are from 30 seconds ago.
Right.
But I would say just whatever you think would be actionable for the room as a whole. I'm happy to sit here and answer everything, of course. But yeah, I did want to. There was a couple questions about do I read the manuscript, and what we actually do. We actually submit a form, and then that form is you'll answer all the questions there. And then we go from the form, because as I mentioned earlier, it's not about condensing 80,000 words. If you read all 80,000 words, it's difficult to condense that. But us just going with the form that we collect the information on has been a lot more helpful. All right. Would you use this in a query letter too? Absolutely. We've had authors submitting queries come to us and ask us to really just make their book sound stellar. I will say a lot of queries do tend to need a longer synopsis than what we provide, but hopefully what we provide can be very helpful. The strap line, which I've also referred to as kind of the subtitle, the hook does not have to be the subtitle. I actually find it's more helpful if the strap line / subtitle is related to the genre. Like you say, it is a self-help book for entrepreneurs. You totally have that in there. How is the hook related to the book's subtitle? So that's kind of just what I said, but with nonfiction, I use the title to kind of be a little more clever, how to write a sizzling synopsis. And then the subtitle is kind of how to use copywriting to market your books more effectively. So the subtitle can be a lot longer. I do see Jack, if I want this sooner before Christmas. Oh, you just posted it. Look at you. Look at you, Martin. What a guy. If I want to get it sooner than before Christmas, there is a rush. You can do a rush. We don't really have that built into Reedsy as is. But if you specifically ask for a rush, then I will make sure to quote you for the rush price.
Yeah, just for that one. Like when you do submit a request on Reedsy, you'll have a deadline for it. So you set like a time span. One of the things we get quite often from authors is they maybe set like a deadline of, in 3 days' time, which is unreasonable. I guess if you sort of set it for the 25th of December, then Bryan will know that you're looking to get it under the Christmas rush.
Yeah, exactly. Happy to do it in 2 weeks. We're totally prepared for that. I do want to disclose I'm part of a team. So there are other people in addition to me.
So if people are looking to sort of get it through, get book descriptions from you through Reedsy, we don't have the sort of forms you might have for your other clients. What sort of information are you looking to get from authors in order?
So we do end up providing the form once people sign up. So that's kind of been our workaround. But basically, just so you guys know ahead of time, and PR asked if there was an extra cost for a rush. Yes, it'd be about a $150 upcharge on the usual $297, especially during this holiday time. But we're not upcharging more than usual, just so you guys know. All right. So for fiction, we kind of ask, like, what's your character like? What's the 4-act summary? What happens in what order? We ask kind of, what is the thing that kicks off the action? What is the inciting incident? And that's about it. And then we ask for your existing book description. More information is always good. Most authors don't have trouble saying a lot of things about their book, so it doesn't end up being much of a problem. And then someone had asked, what is the turnaround? Usually it's a month. With a rush, it would be 2 weeks. So I'm happy to answer more questions, not about the service, of course, and then I can go pop into that document and show off the some live.
Cool. I think there's a small lag between what we say and what gets heard, so we'll wait just a little bit. Okay, we've got one here from Linda.
Traditionally, book jacket copy has been a little different. The inside flap has been a little different than what shows up on the back of the book, but we live in a new age where people buying your book online, they don't have access to an inside flap. So fortunately, that gives us less work to do. Fortunately, the one description you have can go on the back of your book, can go on Amazon, can go anywhere. You don't need to come up with any different stuff. And there's June saying this is beyond helpful. I love it, June. Thank you.
Ludwig asked, will the slides be available? As we mentioned before, we'll get the replay of this edited out. I'll edit out all the sort of technical mistakes at the beginning. And I think Brian's kind enough to let us sort of copy some of the slides and share that in the transcript as well. So those will go out to you on Friday if you signed up for the webinar on Eventbrite. A sort of lingo question from Ginger.
What do we mean by echo? So an echo in this case is just repeating the same word or the same root of a word. So if you said dance and dancing and danced all in the same paragraph, it's going to echo. We don't want that. So I had a couple bad examples of that in my own example, but fortunately we filter that out when we send it out. We're not rushing to put together a webinar.
Is this in the Amazon description something that you would also put on the back of the book? Like, how do you sort of modify them between the formats?
I don't. I've sold 100,000 books, and it's always been the same for me. So hasn't seemed to hamper my sales. So do less work, get the same benefit.
Fantastic. I'm a bit conscious of the time. So if you're up for it, would you like to get on to the...
Sure, absolutely. Did see there was a question earlier, are there any genres we don't do? And the answer is no. We do them all, even the weird ones. So, Martin, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can indeed. It's being brought up right now.
Wonderful.
And here we go, full screen.
All right. So, we have picked, let me see if I can widen this a little bit. No, it's going to be a pain in the butt. All right. So, we picked Michael James Gallagher's Cunning Revenge, a high-octane techno thriller. Solid subtitle there, by the way. Pressured from all sides, if she makes one miscalculation, Israel perishes in a gasp of chemical fumes. So it's a bit odd being in present tense, I will say. Usually it tends to be in past, but I believe all of this could be condensed. All of this and clarified, because I don't know why she's going to perish in a gasp of chemical fumes. Is there a bad guy? I see that in the second line, but we almost want that in the hook. We almost want a mad bomber, an insane bomber in there. And then we might want what she's dealing with. And then we say, if she fails, she and the eastern seaboard will perish in a gasp of chemical fumes. And so we just need to be very clear. It's very clear what the genre is. It's just not very clear why she's going to perish in a gasp of chemical fumes. And we want to know the why. If we're a reader asking too many questions, it's going to throw us off. A bomber, part of an annihilation plot, misconstrues his rescuer. I don't know what that means, so we need to be very clear. I think what it seems like Michael, or whoever wrote this for you, Michael, was trying to keep it short and sweet, which is great, but we can't make it so short and sweet that we don't actually know what's being talked about. His last breath reveals an insidious connection. That is interesting to me, but I feel like because I don't know what's happening here, this ends up not working as well, but it could work better if I knew it was more like when a bomber sets off his payload too soon, like we know more context there. But honestly, before all of that, I'd like to know about Israel. I'd like to know more about her and what she's feeling and what she's thinking. An elite, can she uphold her pledge of never again? I don't know who that's talking about, because Israel has barely been mentioned. So that it's just a little funky there. I hope you don't mind. I mean, I would want my mother to give me this kind of info, even if it hurts. An elite agent, but an ordinary woman, embarks on an impossible mission. A lead or a quagmire? I know what quagmire means, but you want to keep things as simple as possible. Will she fathom the global web of deceit before it's too late? I want to get the real stakes here, Michael. What is it too late? What would happen if it's too late? Would it be, hey, 1,000 people are going to die? I want to know that. And so that was our fiction. I believe we have a nonfiction here. And I want to go into that one. And we have one more if we have time. I don't know the name of this one off the bat. I believe this is a separate one. So my apologies for not knowing the name. But that is why it's helpful to have the title in the description again, a perfect example, in case someone is like halfway down the page and doesn't feel like scrolling back up. Everything you need to get dramatic in the classroom. With nonfiction, we want to solve a problem. So what is the problem? Are your students not engaged in your classroom materials? Can you tell that your students want to get up and sing about the material? Whatever it is, we need this book to be something readers are looking for. And they're not going to be looking for something that if they're looking to get readers more, their students more dramatic, okay, but chances are they're more likely to want to look for what is it that's going to get my students interested and motivated. That's what we need to share here. And so right off the bat, it needs to be more clear. Easy to use, comprehensive, I like those words, teacher resource book, has lesson plans and practical activities that integrate theater into language learning. That's pretty good if we had a section before where we said, hey, who's the expert? Why are you an expert? Why should you be teaching this material? Plus 10 original scripts so you can put the activities into action immediately. That's pretty good. Drama and play scripts can be used to teach pronunciation, pragmatics, and other communication skills, as well as provide grammar and vocabulary practice. I would make this, I don't like those sentences in a description that are trying to teach and say, hey, this book can be used for things. I would rather it just told me it like it is. What is in this book? How is it going to change your classroom? How is it going to change your students' lives? Conveniently organized into 2 parts. Part 1 includes pragmatic mini lessons, community builders, drama games, and pronunciation activities. This feels like maybe a little too much. There are lessons for producing a play, as well as guidelines and activities for writing plays. Usually this is why I just do about 3 sentences in the synopsis for nonfiction, because all of this, it dilutes it. We want to know, does it solve my problem? How is it going to transform? Is this presented by an expert? You'll even find rubrics and evaluation schemes for giving notes and feedback that can be photocopied and used in the classroom. That's nice. Specifically designed to feature everyday language, high-frequency social interactions. These scenes and sketches follow engaging plot arcs in which characters face obstacles and strive to achieve objectives. Read sentences in one breath, and then you can tell if they're too long. And this one's a little bit long. With a foreword by Ken Wilson. Who's Ken Wilson? I actually know who Ken Wilson is, but not everybody else will. So you need to establish some expertise there too. I like this, though, towards the end. This is a must-have for anyone interested using the performing arts to help students become more confident and fluent speakers. I just have a call to action at the end. Buy title today to use theater to enhance your students' learning experience today. So those are some examples. Now we're in the infinity screen. So I'll actually get out of that shared screen.
Cool.
um,
Yeah,
but
thank
yeah,
you, Brian.
hopefully that's helpful, y'all.
No, it was really amazing. Like we had like 300 people turn up, and I think they all got like a lot out of it, except for that one person who seemed to give you a thumbs down.
I know.
You know, you can't please everyone all the time. But yeah, as I mentioned, we'll be sending out a transcript and edited version of this in just a few days. We'll have links to Brian's profile page, links to his podcast, his books, some of which I think you got a taste for tonight. Is there anything else you want to plug before we finish up tonight? Well, today?
I will just say, if you're giving me the opportunity, if you live in the Midwest, I am going to be live doing an event in Chicago. Actually, Martin's cohort Ricardo was at the similar event last year in Chicago, and I do have a conference going on, selfpublishinglive.com. It's I really love these things that are live, and I love doing it in front of people as well. So that is just one of my favorite things to do. So if you do live in the Midwest, you don't mind a drive, we do have self-publishing live. Hey, that rhymes. Look at that. If
Well,
you don't mind a drive, self-publishing live.
I'll include that in the email as well. Like when you say drive, is it in Chicago or is it somewhere quite rural?
Yes, it will be in Chicago. It is right in the heart of things, just south of Wrigleyville, where the Cubs play, and so it's a really fun neighborhood.
Cool, amazing. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have our next Reedsy Live. It's continuing our Vegas theme. Alex Newton, who I think presented there as well, he'll be talking to us a bit about the sort of market trends he sort of detected in the last half year to a year. If you really want to get into the weeds with some good data-backed suggestions and knowledge, then it's one to turn up for. I'll send that along with the transcript, and nothing is left apart from for me to thank you, Brian, for your time. It's been tremendously helpful. We'll hope to have you on again before too long.
Thank you, Martin. Feel free to have me back. I love you guys out there, and I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share some knowledge, because it's one of my favorite things to do.
Amazing. Have a good day.